Right. So the next topic I want to move on to is going off altruism. What do you think are the role of nonprofit organizations in an economy as a society overall, given that their role in helping those without the financial means to do so, obviously is done alternatively by government. So of course, it's like attacking the problem from two sides. You've got government schemes, you've also got nonprofit organizations, and those are the two main parties. Of course, nonprofit organizations, I believe, encompasses charities as well. So if we assume that was the case, like an umbrella term for everything, you've got those two options. So I ask you,
I'm gonna try and pull back and then hit both of them at the same time. Okay. So I'm going to make a bit of a Piagetian point here, and it's going to seem a bit like a tangent, but I'll get back to the question. So when children are designing games, when they're interacting with each other, children that can't abide by rules of games very quickly get ostracized. And for a game to be functioning, it needs to be playable for everyone involved. It needs to be somewhat, at least tolerable, so you can interact like that. And then as we grow as people, we're upscaling our games because we're playing that as a family, and then as a community. On top of the community, we've got the federal government. On top of that, we've got all sorts of things coming off of that. And then this brings us into the Pareto distribution, which is all of the goods or whatever currency you're using in any sort of domain tip to one side and leave a lot of people getting closer to zero. So the role of a non-profit organization or the government, either scheme, would be to make sure that we get the people who are on zero and get them somewhere they can move, right? They can move up. It's like when people have a negative cascade of events in their life, you hear the metaphor of spiraling down, because one negative event leads to the other, which leads to the next, which leads to the next, and so forth. Although it's more difficult to build a spiral back up, the role of these organizations is to give the first bit of momentum to this snowball effect. So, for example, if you're training someone with a qualification, okay, that's great because they're going to be able to get a job. Or they can get a job, they can feed themselves properly, and they might even be able to find somewhere to live, right? That's way better than being at zero. So and then how the government should function is that we have, well, in the UK, it's the Conservatives and Labour, which are right wing and left wing, if we're going to simplify it. The right should be maintaining the hierarchy, and the left's role is to swoop up anyone left at zero and make sure they can compete across a hierarchy that's economically relevant and psychologically meaningful. I hope that hits both of them.
It's like the necessity comes from, like the summary of what you're saying, from just almost axioms of nature where the pie gets distributed in this Pareto distribution, where it seems to be the few have many, however it is.
Well, isn't it the Matthew principle is another way of describing it. It's a biblical reference, and it's like, from those who have, I'm going to misquote this slightly, a lot more shall come, and from those who have nothing, more shall be taken from you. Which is like brutal. But it doesn't, just because this sort of natural law seems to occur, doesn't mean we can't do anything to help the people who are suffering as a consequence.
Very true. So would you say that there are places in which a government scheme, for example, benefits, may have deficiencies in which a nonprofit organization would have merits in?
So I find the main benefits of a non-profit organization, firstly, is that it's done out of a good motivation. If you start a non-profit, you're doing that because you want to. It's meaning. It's you're trying to actually better the world. The government, I'm sure they have intentions of making the world better, but the second you upscale something like that, you're hiring people who aren't as passionate. So things are going to be missed out, and they're going to be treated more like numbers rather than people. Whereas if you